The merchant vessel Twilight Meridian hummed through the void between star systems. In the recreation deck, Vesper sat cross-legged, her calloused hands working through fiber-optic cables. Her dark hair fell across her face as she concentrated. Beside her, a small creature purred, thunder compressed into a kitten's body. Koa, barely 3 months old, was already the size of a large house cat, though his species would eventually grow massive. His midnight blue fur rippled with bioluminescent patterns. The Velcari were apex predators, sentient and fiercely territorial. But Koa was still a cub, orphaned when poachers killed his family. Vesper had found him in a black market cage on Station Kronos 7, barely alive. She'd spent her entire month's wages to buy his freedom, then another month's worth on veterinary care. The crew thought she was insane. Velcari were notoriously dangerous, even as cubs. But Vesper had looked into those luminous golden eyes and seen intelligence, fear, and a desperate need for family. The same thing she'd seen in the mirror after losing her own parents. Now, 2 months later, Koa followed her everywhere, chirping and purring. She'd taught him not to extend his claws during play. "Almost done, little one," Vesper murmured, not looking up. "Captain needs these comm arrays back online." Koa responded with a pleased trill, then flopped onto his back, exposing his spotted belly. A gesture of absolute trust. The ship shuddered violently. Vesper's head snapped up. That wasn't a systems malfunction. That was external impact. Boarding clamps detected, the ship's AI announced. Hull breach in progress on decks 3 and 5. Pirates, alarms blared. Red emergency lights strobed through the recreation deck. Vesper was already moving, scooping Koa against her chest while grabbing the plasma welder from her toolkit. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. "Stay quiet," she whispered to Koa, who had gone rigid, pupils dilated. She could hear the firefight, plasma bursts, shouting, heavy boots on deck plating. The Twilight Meridian was lightly armed. Against equipped pirates, they wouldn't last long. Vesper pressed into an alcove behind cargo containers. She needed the escape pods or armory. But between here and there lay corridors crawling with boarders. The door hissed open. 3 figures entered wearing mismatched armor, scavenged military pieces with crude gang insignias. The tallest was a Krenth, his 4 arms holding different weapons: plasma rifle, pistol, shock baton, and blade. The other 2 were humanoid with too many joints, bruise-colored skin, reflective eyes. "Secure this sector," the Krenth growled. "Round up crew for ransom. Kill resistors." 10 minutes. They searched methodically, overturning furniture, scanning with thermal readers. Vesper held her breath. Koa trembled but stayed silent. The humanoid with cybernetic eyes stopped. His scanner beeped. "Got something," he said, grinning. 2 life forms. Behind those containers. The pirates converged, weapons raised. Vesper set Koa down behind her, placing herself between him and the raiders. Well, just a lone human," the Krenth said, mandibles clicking. "You're worth 50,000 credits. Humans make excellent slaves." Behind her, Koa hissed, the sound building like a siren. "Is that a Velcari cub?" the Krenth breathed, greed flooding his expression. "Worth millions." "Step aside, human." "No," Vesper said. "I wasn't asking." He nodded to his companions. "Stun her carefully. We want her intact. Grab that cub." The cybernetic humanoid moved forward, reaching around Vesper. His eyes glowed with targeting reticles. His hand closed around Koa's scruff. The cub yowled, and Vesper moved. Her left hand shot out, still not looking up from tracking the pirate's boots. She grabbed the humanoid's wrist with her right hand, thumb finding the cluster of small bones just below his palm. Then she twisted. The sound was like green wood snapping. Wet, organic, wrong. The humanoid screamed as every metacarpal shattered in sequence, bones fragmenting under pressure that shouldn't have been possible from a human grip. Vesper's fingers ground the fragments together with methodical precision. Break the scaphoid, dislocate the lunate, pulverize the trapezoid, crush the hamate. She still hadn't looked up. Her plasma welder, activated the instant the pirate touched Koa, carved through his forearm armor like butter. The superheated tip seared through composite plating, through flesh and muscle, cauterizing as it cut. The smell of burning flesh and melting armor filled the air. The entire sequence took 1.7 seconds. The humanoid collapsed, cradling his ruined hand, bones jutting through skin at impossible angles, blood and hydraulic fluid mixing on the deck. Vesper released him, letting him fall without ceremony. Her expression hadn't changed. She simply adjusted her grip on the welder and raised her eyes for the first time since the violence began. "You touched my cub," she said quietly, her voice as flat and cold as vacuum. The Krenth and his companion stared, frozen. They'd seen humans fight before, seen them scared, desperate, angry. But this was different. This was the cold, mechanical efficiency of a predator defending its young. No rage, no fear, no hesitation. Just absolute certainty of purpose. "She's insane," the other humanoid whispered, his voice trembling. "Did you see? She didn't even look. Those bones, humans," the Krenth spat. But he was backing away now, weapons lowering despite himself. "You're all defective. Your homeworld must be a nightmare." There was something primal in his hindbrain screaming danger, warning him that this small, soft creature was more lethal than anything he'd faced in 20 years of raiding. Vesper took a step forward, boots clicking on the deck plating. Koa, emboldened by her defense, arched his back and hissed, his fur standing on end, bioluminescent patterns flaring bright red, a warning display that on an adult Valkyrie preceded wholesale slaughter. "You're leaving now," Vesper said. Not a question or a threat. A statement of fact, delivered in the same tone she might use to discuss routine maintenance. "You're taking your friend. You're returning to your ship. And you're going to tell every pirate between here and the galactic core what happens when someone touches a human's family." The Krenth's mandibles worked silently. His weapons had humans outgunned, out-armored, outmatched in every measurable metric. But none of those measurements accounted for the look in Vesper's eyes, the flat, absolute willingness to die protecting the small creature at her feet. "This isn't over," he finally said, his voice lacking conviction. "Yes," Vesper replied. "It is." They dragged their companion away. Within minutes, the boarding clamps released. Vesper sank to the floor, adrenaline crash hitting hard. Koa crawled into her lap, purring, rubbing his head against her chest. "I've got you," she whispered. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Vesper, you there?" "Here, Captain." "Pirates withdrawn. Get to the bridge. We need those comm arrays." "Understood." Vesper looked down at Koa, whose golden eyes blinked up with boundless trust. That was what made humans dangerous. Not weapons or technology. Their capacity to love fiercely across species barriers, to defend those bonds with ferocity that defied reason. That a human could break every bone in someone's hand without looking up, simply because they dared